I have these friends, Dan and Sheila. They're podcast hosts.
Welcome to Profiling Criminal Minds. I'm Dan.
And I'm Dr. Redmond.
And, look, if you've listened to the show before, if this isn't your first episode, you'll know that she knows where this is going. We try to not get too political on, the normal weekday shows and save that for Sunday or when we're talking about, Wise Guy, or more recently Miami Vice, which is like, oh my God, there's some real political stuff on that Miami Vice. But on the day we're recording this, the President of the United States is trying to trigger a civil war. And there's no nice way to say it. That's what he's doing.
No.
He is trying to trigger a civil war, and at the same time, the Prime Minister of Israel is trying to trigger maybe World War III, at least a regional war with Russia. Maybe he's trying for World War III in order to hold on to his power. Like, that's what's happening today. So I'm just saying.
It was a shock. Criminal Minds is a welcome relief.
It really was.
Yeah, it was weird. Yeah.
Waking up to that and just being like, you know what? I'm going to turn on this show about serial killers. I'm pretty sure that's going to be easier to deal with.
Yeah. For sure. I'm reading. I had to drive all day. I watched it this morning. This is a little late coming.
Yeah. She was on the road all day long. So there you go.
But I did listen to the news at 6:00. But I'm just going. The last little bit in my car, and then trying to find out where I was supposed to be. But it was just. I just went. I throw up my hands. This has been a problem that has been coming, and
for a while.
And I would say that if somebody had done this. Well, they did do it at one point earlier, or if the Americans had actually, Donald Trump came into power after Obama. So guess what? All hell's, I listened to somebody talking about that and saying, well, yeah, but ever since Obama, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. Remember Donald Trump came into power and he couldn't do much the first time? Guess what? He's going to do it now. And then I listened to Huckabee. Oh my God. Huckabee. Well, and so someone, that was this morning, I think at some point, and she was saying, well, to explain Huckabee, of course, he is an American,
end times dispensationalist.
No, he said he's a Zionist. Because of course Israel has to control the whole thing before the second coming.
Yeah, an end times dispensationalist. Yes, that's exactly what it is. Yeah,
second apocalypse, second coming. Well, but she was trying to explain it. If you say dispensationalist,
they don't know what the word means. You're right. Absolutely.
That's right. Say what?
But the point is, a good chunk of Trump's base is trying to trigger the end of the world by having Israel take over the whole Middle East.
Yes, because then Jesus will come back.
Exactly.
And the final battle between good and evil will happen. And then, all of the rest of us will go to hell. And all of them will be able to get to go to heaven or a renewed earth, depending.
Depending on who you ask. It's why none of them want to be cremated, because they believe that their bodies will be lifted out of the ground and restored to perfect health.
Well, except that I'm going,
and I'm like, God is so wait a powerful. Minute. Why can't he do that to your ashes? He can't do that to your ashes? He's all powerful. Like, I'm pretty sure this shouldn't be that much of an issue, guys. But no one has ever asked these people for consistency.
No.
Anyway.
Or intelligence.
Intelligence, yeah. But if you're wondering, that's what's motivating a weirdly large amount of the American political establishment is being motivated
for Israel,
specifically. I mean, there is a larger extent to which Israel is just, how do I put this gently, a place for the U.S. military-industrial complex to test out all of its weapons. It is a live fire testing ground that it maintains, so they can just see how their missiles and tanks and surveillance systems work. And that's also evil. Like, all sides of support for this are evil. Whether it's the end of days cultists, whether it's the CIA and the military-industrial complex, either side of this is a nightmare. So yeah, just
yes, and of course, the Golden Dome. That if we become the 51st state, we won't have to pay for.
Oh, that is the
you
funniest.
think you're not going to tax the hell out of us?
But more importantly, what I loved about the Golden Dome thing, and then I promise we'll move on to the episode after this. I swear to God. But the Golden Dome thing is
iron wasn't good enough for Trump.
Well, no, of course. The man's an idiot. That's just how he lives. But no, the thing that I find so funny about the Golden Dome is he's like, oh, you won't be protected by our Golden Dome. If you join up, you would have to pay hundreds of millions of dollars to be protected.
Billions of dollars.
Oh, yes, hundreds of billions of dollars to be protected. Right? By the Golden Dome. And here's the thing. What the Golden Dome is, I'm not saying it's ever going to work, it's a series of essentially missile interceptors, both in space and on the ground, with a lot of early warning, very high-tech early warning technology. So you know where the missiles are and you can intercept them. I don't think it's going to work, but that's the idea of what it is. The problem is, the Golden Dome doesn't work to protect America unless essentially there are sensors going all the way across the Northwest Territories and the Yukon, and none of it. Meaning, if Canada doesn't let America put listening stations all over our north, there's no Golden Dome. So no, Canada
why do you think
not...
he wants to take us over?
No, but I'm just saying, Canada doesn't have to pay to be in the Golden Dome. America has to pay huge amounts of money to lease land for there to be even a chance of the Golden Dome working, which I maintain it wouldn't, but for there to be a chance, they would have to essentially pay Canada an exorbitant amount of money, like an insane amount of money.
That's why they want Greenland too.
Oh yeah, that's why they want Greenland, because again, they want to see missiles coming over the North Pole. That's all. You're right. It's exactly why they want Greenland.
That's why they want. Or he wants Greenland, and so nobody in Greenland is talking to
for obvious reasons.
Americans. For obvious reasons. So
the point is, everything's a disaster right now. The world has gone nuts. Let's talk about some criminal minds.
Yeah, because we're going on vacation now, which is why this is being posted late. Yeah. But it's still going to be today.
Oh no, we're still getting it up before the day is over. We're not monsters.
Yes. No. So.
Oh my God. So yes, it is a direct continuation of last week. All of your questions about whether or not he's faking it, I think are over.
I'm sorry.
I know you don't. You don't want to give it up, but oh my God, he's just confessing to them. Like there is no way, right?
He's going to get away with it all.
How?
Because look at his lawyer said. Yeah. But he's a different person now. So anything that he says
that's what his lawyer's
in
claiming.
This situation,
he is not going along with what his lawyer. He's already said he's not going along with what his lawyers say.
Oh, just wait.
Okay.
Just wait. I do not dare. It's funny, eh? And I realized I'm watching this whole thing and I'm going, but it's still the same problem. Number one, I didn't know they had an MRI of what his brain looked like. And they did electroencephalograms and they did all of this other stuff
portable
on his brain before he had the coma.
Yeah.
And so until I see all of that, I don't trust any of this. And after, you know what it did push in my mind though?
What's that?
Gave a real push was, I'm afraid that doctor is going to be in on this somehow or another. I tell you. And the other thing was, it is that they're taking it for granted that he killed his parents.
Yeah.
But as far as we know,
we got no proof of that.
We have no proof, and yet they're just going, well. And he started by killing his parents. Well,
did he?
No. And that's why you're basing this thing on.
Yeah.
But did he? We know his he believes he killed his parents.
Yeah.
We know his uncle
Taught him that he killed his parents and that he was born bad.
Yep.
Yeah.
But we have no proof of that.
Yeah.
None whatsoever. So I'm sorry. There's just something in me that just doesn't like this. And I may have to swallow it all in episode 10. And I'm more than willing to do it. But there's just these little things. And he's just too friggin' good at this. And wanting Dave in the room when he's having the insect. Oh, no.
Okay.
I just can't buy it. Sorry.
All right. All evidence to the contrary. It's just, I'm watching him confess over and over again to all of his crimes.
Yeah, but none of that, I'll give you 10
you say
to 1
it's not admissible.
That's going to be usable.
You say it's not admissible, but he's already under arrest for all this stuff. He's had his rights read to him. Now his lawyer could claim that, but he would have to affirmatively claim that. The lawyer can't do it for him. He has to sign off on the plea. And I'm just saying, I've seen no evidence that he's going to. You know what? I could be wrong too.
Yeah. One of us is going to eat
one of us is going to be wrong. I completely get that. I 100% accept that one of us is going to be wrong. Okay. I just think of the two of us, a little more likely it's going to be you at this moment. But we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see soon enough.
I will never accept it until I get those questions answered.
Okay. Well, we've got a month left. All right. We got a month left before we find out one way or the other. And I know I hate this every time we get to this part of the season. This is third year where I'm like, are they really only doing 10 of these? I'm enjoying them so much. It just
this was a really solid episode. And I thought the fans are going to be really happy with this one.
Oh God, yeah. You've got of the week, freaky situation. Really freaky situation. Oh my God. Burying people alive.
And the kicker at the end. The cliffhanger thing at the end was great.
Oh my God. It's just a really good episode.
Yep.
All right. So let's talk about the case of the week a little. All right. So the case of the week is we opened with a woman buried alive. And I gotta say, they did a great job of increasing the threat of being buried alive because she seems to have plenty of air in there. Right. She's able to call the police. They're able to, get her. Right. They're able to get a lock on her right away. I'm like, okay, well, what's the threat here? I know it's scary being buried alive, but you can survive on low oxygen for a really long amount of time. So I'm like, she's going to be fine. And then boom. Oh my God. I was not expecting that.
Collapsed. No, none of us were expecting that because they were coming. And I was doing well because the horrible thing was she called her daughter.
I know.
And her ex-husband, who's only seeing her, I think, every second weekend or something, or 2 days a week,
or something like that,
said, no, we've got boundaries. No, I can't let you talk to her because they have obviously got this problematics.
Oh, they're clearly having a very, very hotly contested divorce. Clearly.
Yeah.
We don't get any of the details, but again, it's a real accomplishment of their actors that both the woman in the box and the ex-husband racked by guilt later do such a fantastic job of selling this situation.
Yeah. If only she had, and the funny thing is even if if only she had said, and then I go, well, no, even if she'd said that, he wouldn't have believed her.
Well, he might have believed that she was trapped in a box. But the thing is, even if she had said that, the guy would have pulled the trigger anyway before she got on the phone with her daughter or as she was getting on the phone, because that would cause more pain. Just missing out on this last message from your mother, that's what causes the most pain, and that's what he wanted to do. Whatever hurt people the most is what he was trying to do. Because he had that toxic divorced guy energy. Don't trust divorced guys. I'm just saying it. There is a description in a lot of online culture of like what divorced behavior is, and the most hence the constant reference to Elon Musk being the most divorced man in America. And in this, Aaron Stanford is making a pretty good play for being one of the most, like, excessively divorced men. You know, the kind of guys who get divorced and then their entire personality starts being complaining about the family court system. That kind of divorced guy. That's what this guy is. And he is an absolute nightmare.
It's the wife's fault.
Exactly. Everything's always the wife's fault.
And then it becomes,
always the children. Then he takes it out on the children, and that's literally what he does this episode. They assume the wife is going to be the targeted victim because he was just testing it out. But nope.
Yeah.
In that case, the wife was just easier to get to. He really wanted to torment his wife in the worst possible way. And that is killing the daughter in front of her. Because, Jesus.
Yeah.
That guy's a monster. Really? I know, it's really creepy. Like, they did a great job with this guy. And again, he did a really good performance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh God. Well, and remember when it begins, though, and we should have just right off the top the message from the disciple. Well, I guess we'll get to that later.
No, I figured we'd go through the case of the week first.
Yeah, and then but the case is it's integral, but it is. And then I'm going, and then at the end when he goes, "Who says there's just one?"
I know. Oh. That was nice.
Like the funny thing is that in numerous ways. Oh, and that's another reason why I think that I'm looking at Voit.
Yeah.
Is that whole thing with the computer. He's now got his hands on a computer.
Oh yeah. Him having his hands on his computer, I understand. I tweaked to that as well. I was very nervous made by that as well. But the thing is, it's just how good is it the actor or is it the character who's the best actor in the world? Because the surprise on his face when he reads the messages revealing that everything that the brutal man was doing was exactly mapped out by him in a series of, chat messages. That was like, again, are we saying Voit is the best actor in the world? Because that man is selling genuine surprise and shock at seeing this.
Plus, he lied at one point. He and his wife were never on the edge of divorce, as far as I can tell.
We don't know that. No, we don't know that. We know they were, like, he was pulling away from his wife because of his murder stuff. We know it's entirely possible that's something they might have talked about in the years before the actual murder started up. You don't know that for sure. I don't know that I'm ready to call that a lie.
Oh, no. Okay. You might not be ready to call that a lie, but okay. So let's,
they had not established that previously, but I don't think that's inconsistent with the state of the family as we saw them.
Well, all I know is as I said, we're almost assuredly probably should go back and watch season 1 again.
Oh, it really does feel like it. Yeah.
Because there's a whole bunch of things that you and I are remembering differently from season 1.
Absolutely.
And it has to do more with relationships than it does with anything else.
Yeah. No, I think that's true.
And so, but this one where this guy, because to me that's it. Like when Garcia wouldn't let him touch the computer.
Yeah.
Which was of course, and then all of a sudden, but she hooks something up and she should have been smarter than to do that.
Yeah.
And she should have been smarter than to do that.
Yes.
So I'm not sure why
what is going to happen is, now I think you're right that what is going to happen is her doing that is going to let whoever is doing the current hacking into the FBI's system somehow. And that's going to, precipitate whatever happens in the last 2 episodes of the season. Now, again, it's entirely possible that Voit planned all of this completely, or it's possible that his lead disciple has been planning it based on everything all of the knowledge of computers and this technology that Voit has laid out for them. Like, again, it might be Voit, it might not be Voit. I'm not willing to sign off on being insane, but I do understand why you're saying that. 100%.
There's all these little things that just make me so uncomfortable, not willing to give up that last whatever I've got now, 15% left. I just not giving it up because there's just these little things.
I get it. So one thing I really like, though, is it's going to be weird to say it this way, but how easy it is to catch serial killers now. Because there was the joke we talk about in, like, at the end of season 11, they had a plan for themselves after the after the storm. They were going to be, oh, here's what we're going to do. All of the serial killers are going to break out. And then they're going to have to catch them all over again. And then, like, they sat down during, like, I don't know if they do a writer's retreat. We can ask Breen. But they sat down in the off season. They're like, wait, that's not the kind of show this is. Like, the team is for figuring out who the killer is. The team is not for finding a guy somewhere.
Yeah.
Like, that's not their specialty.
It's not a missing persons department.
It's not a show about prison, catching people who broke from prison. They're not U.S. Marshals. Okay, that's not their job. Their job is identifying
prison break
people.
Either.
Yeah, right? They're not their job is to figure out who a person is. Once someone else, like, once they've identified that person, other people can handle the capturing. And so, you know, unsurprisingly, in the gap between season 11 and 12, they're like, oh, I guess this isn't what this show. Everybody got caught off camera. Basically everybody but Mr. Scratch. And,
off camera, yeah.
And, oh Christ, I hate to say it, the Woomerator got caught off camera. And my point was, right, that they're like, okay, well, what kind of show is it about? Because if you already know who all these people are, they're not hard to catch. And so there's this funny scene where it's like, okay, let's look over what this guy did and say, okay, well, the type of murder he committed, you know, will tell you who he is. And that's always been their thing. But now they just have a list of serial killers, right? That they can just go through and say, okay, well, which one is this? And so they just load up the document of all the serial killer conversations. And it's like, okay, in these serial killer conversations, who is the most divorced of all of them? And so they go through the conversations and you get the thing that's like, it's like problems with wife. We got 10 people who want to kill their wives. We still have 10 people. Like, that made me really happy.
Then down to 6 at one point.
Yeah, no, they lowered it down, obviously, but I just think it's very funny that, yeah, no, it's like the kind of toxic guys he's dealing with have a lot in common. Oh, I thought that was very well done. All right, and then of course they go to get him, and he's very easy to deal with. They take him down. The little girl survives, the wife survives. It's a happy ending. We are very pleased with this episode. And now a quick nod to Aaron Stanford. Now, you may not be familiar with Aaron Stanford, who played the killer this week. It's not like he's a super famous actor, but the reason I want to bring him up is this. He was Pyro in the X-Men movies years ago, and so he had a nice cameo in that Wolverine versus Deadpool movie, right? Because they brought back all sorts of actors. But far more importantly than that, you're familiar with The Hills Have Eyes.
Yes.
Of course you are.
Excuse me.
Of course you are. You're familiar with Wes Craven's The Hills Have Eyes. Now, The Hills Have Eyes had a 2000s remake by Alexander Aja, a director I hate. That's not important. It was pretty well done, particularly, solidly well-made movie. But it is famous mostly for something that came up when we were talking about The Collector and the Collection, which is my statement that, as a general rule, horror movies don't have good fight scenes. Just generally.
Right, yeah.
And how shockingly good the fight scenes in the the Collector and the Collection are, right? They're just amazing fight scenes. And that's just something horror movies generally don't do. And what I said was the major exception to that was a little movie called The Hills Have Eyes, where there is this unbelievably memorable, iconically perfect fight scene between the son-in-law of the family and Pluto, this giant monster man. And that's Aaron Stanford who was in that fight. So Aaron Stanford, the killer from this week, is the guy who was the participant in that unbelievably iconic fight from The Hills Have Eyes. So,
okay.
I will always be a fan of him for that reason alone, because it's that memorable a sequence. So yeah, I doff my cap to you, Aaron Stanford, still out there crushing it 20 years after The Hills Have Eyes. Although now you're like burying children alive in coffins. So less laudable behavior than brutally murdering a giant monster man. All right.
Sorry.
So my little note to you. All right, now we can talk about the other elements of this week. Element number 1, the most suspicious man in the history of television, Rebecca's ex.
Is he the new lawyer?
The guy who just came over from the DOJ to work on this case and is now like hanging out in the building just as a mysterious box is smuggled into the building. Like, oh my God. Just as this wailing demon from hell mask is put into the building, just as this guy turns up. Okay. It's like, again, it could be a red herring. Obviously, it could be a red herring. Because again, I've never seen a man this suspicious. Oh, I loved it though.
He reminds me of somebody, and I'm just trying, and it's just not coming to me. Okay. No, some other character in some other show that and I'm just going, and it'll come to me at some point. It didn't come to me this morning. And yet, no, I mean, and so the focus, of course, it might be a red herring, but I think the fact that they spend enough time to obscure it by doing the thing with Tara.
Yes.
And how she's, she misread him.
Yeah.
As peacocking.
Mm-hmm.
Jeez. And wanting to get back together with
Rebecca. Yeah.
Rebecca.
Mm-hmm.
And so
now we've made her just the very fact that like he's got this, he's got a fiance. Okay, I guess we're supposed to dismiss him then. But maybe it's a double bluff. Ooh,
yes.
But yeah, I was very happy to see the world's most suspicious man show up. He is so suspicious.
He even looks it, and I'm just
trying to
think. It'll come to me probably later on, and we'll tell you next week.
Put it in the show notes, maybe. If you remember who it is. But yeah, I did enjoy those scenes. I have been a big proponent. I think it's come up over and over again for Tara and Rebecca scenes. I love the two of them together. I think Rebecca's a fantastic character.
Yep.
Right? 100%. I think I've been really enjoying the two of them. And I think, this is just yet another great scene with these two characters. I just hope Rebecca doesn't get killed.
I don't want to think about that.
I know. We like her way too much. We like this woman way too much. She's such a fun character.
And no, please.
And it's so good for Tara. Having somebody who's,
so
stable.
Human.
Yes, this is my point. So yeah, I'm very interested to see where it goes, but we'll see. I still think he's the most suspicious man in the world, but obviously I can't say for sure that he's a villain and in on it just yet. Oh my God. But still a couple of nice scenes. All right. Now we can get to the Voit stuff and the Brutal Man stuff, which, oof.
So it opens with him. This is the man. This is the message from the disciple.
Yeah. That hell is empty and all the demons are here.
All the demons are here. And then we get that further reinforced at the end where he says, who's to say it's just
one going to get activated. Now that Sicarius has been broken out. And that's the interesting idea, right? That I find kind of compelling here. The idea that it's like They were supposed to go one at a time, right? It is, okay, and this is my theory. And this is why I think he's actually, this is why I think he's actually lost his memory. And he's figuring this out as he goes. Because I'm pretty sure the plan was, if he ever goes to jail, what you do is, in sequence, you do your serial killing, these absolutely brutal, over-the-top serial killings that are going to get media attention and everyone to notice, and you do them one at a time in sequence. And then after you've done a few of these, right, then you put out you demand to see Sicarius, right? And at this point, when he made this whole plan, he had no idea he was going to have lost his memory. And then being allowed to see Sicarius is what is going to tip off, is going to start phase 2, which is just killers everywhere. And the only way to make them stop is to let Sicarius go. I think that's what his original plan was. And I think he actually got amnesia, so he doesn't realize that this is what the original plan was. I think that's what's going on here. I think what we are watching is his plan B to get out of jail if everything else went wrong. Or like, I guess by this point it would be his plan H, because he did have a lot of plans. But I think what we're witnessing is his plan H to get out of jail, if all else failed, was to create essentially so many new killers all doing their thing at once that the government would have to deal with him. In the same way that Lucky Luciano had people in the mob blow up a bunch of things down at the docks and say to the government, that's Nazi spies. What you got to do is let me out of jail, and then me and the mafia can protect the docks and make sure you can get supplies to people fighting Nazis in England. But of course, there were no Nazi spies blowing up the dock. It was just the mafia trying to get Lucky Luciano out of jail, which they did. I think that's what we're watching. I think we're watching Sicarius's version of the Lucky Luciano plan, which is essentially creating such a mess that the government has to give him a pass. To do so much damage that they have no choice but to cut a deal. Except the irony is he's no longer the guy who and again, this is what makes it more dramatically satisfying and why I choose to believe he has amnesia. He's no longer the man who wants to make that deal. Like, all of this is planning for and by a guy who no longer exists.
But he's already got a deal.
I know. Well,
anything that he says.
Yes, absolutely. But when they originally started this, they didn't know that's the position. He's not in contact with any of his people. You see what I'm saying? He's not in contact with any of his people in jail. I'm saying all of this is happening on autopilot. Like, this is a machine he put into place. And when he's been in jail for X amount of time, it just automatically started. Or, it's possible that his main disciple, maybe the doctor, started it for him when she found out he had been in a coma. Who can say? The point is, or like that he had woken up, while he was in the coma, just to keep it going and prep things for him if and when he ever got out of it. And my point is, I think that's what's happening here. I think this is his plan to essentially bargain his way out of legal responsibility for his actions, but it's a plan made by a person who doesn't exist for the benefit of a person who is now disgusted by the person he used to be. And again, do I think that because that's the most dramatically satisfying way this could go? Partially, yeah, that is why I think that. But I think I trust these creators enough at this point that I'm willing to assume that we're going to be getting the most dramatically satisfying version of this story, because that's sure as hell what we got last year with how Gold Star happened, isn't it?
Yeah, no, Gold Star was just great.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, we can trust these people to do the most satisfying version of the story. And the pitch I have here is I firmly believe that most satisfying version. All right. but I know you're not fully convinced. So can we at least be very happy that almost as if the show was taking notes from me last week, we got the first mention of Tyler's son in 2 years?
No, that was the funny thing.
That was eerie, right?
Yeah, I know.
I complained about it last week, and then this week, there it is.
Yes. Well,
That's so
it's
crazy.
like the whole. I'm sorry. It's like the whole universe mapped this that mapped last
whole
fall.
season out just for the two of us last fall.
Yes. Yeah. Last
No,
week, last year. Yeah.
It's insane, but here we are.
And we don't believe any of that, but boy, I tell you,
it feels like it. It doesn't have to be true to feel like it. That's what I'll say.
No, you just get to a point and going, it's just like one too many things. It's just weird.
One after another. But yeah, I was happy to see that get referenced.
I could just hear Breen laughing his head off listening to our podcast last week when we were complaining about
that. I was like, oh, well, I guess they spoke a little too soon. And we did speak a little too soon. We should have trusted you on that front. And yeah, the idea, the heartwarming idea.
We gotta call it like we
of course.
Feel it and see it. Dan.
And we always do. It's still great, though, that it's like, because he remembered the call. I just like that that's what set it off, that Tyler remembered talking to his sister, right? Her calling him on that night. Yeah, it was because they had mentioned that earlier.
Because
well, they
we got that
earlier.
In the first season.
Yeah, because he, in the first season, he mentioned the fact that, like, he got a call, but he didn't bother going out to meet her, and he always blamed himself. And now we find out that, no, that was just, like, her call to be the last thing she was allowed to do. He couldn't have saved her by going out to meet her, because it was literally just Voit giving her a chance to say goodbye and make sure her son was taken care of. So, it's they closed the loop on that thing from the first season in a way that I found very satisfying.
Oh yeah, it is fine.
Yeah.
It was. I'm not complaining about
a good scene.
That the fact that you get some of these little ends tied up.
Yeah.
And you just see how. But even there, like when you gotta watch Voit more closely. I swear that actor. Well, first of all, the actor is you can't say it's just kudos, and the fact that he can switch back and forth. But sometimes, like the switching was very interesting. I thought when he was talking to
the brutal man,
yeah. Like the switching was very interesting. Like I'm going, so you don't remember, eh?
Mm-hmm. Well, no, but I mean, they're saying he does remember, but that's the thing. They're saying he does remember now because he was in a room with him and he's facing this kid whose life he absolutely destroyed and transformed him into this monster.
Yeah, never. Yes, I know. I'm just going to.
I know.
Keep my mouth shut.
No,
I'm just going to keep my mouth shut about this.
You have made your feeling on this subject very clear. I'm not saying you're wrong for having the feelings you believe. I'm just saying I think they're going a different way with it, and there is equal evidence on both sides of this equation. That's all I'm saying. But it's weird how I was talking last week about how about his killing thing is just some stuff from the one of the Purge movies, right? And how he's this young guy, and I was talking about how like these serial killers are not evolving naturally. They are essentially being crafted in this crucible that he had built. And then again, a week later, my kind of comment theory thing is proven out because yes, he did not naturally happen. He was manipulated into serial killing and to serial killing in this specific way.
Yeah.
Like every part of his serial killer persona was something that Voit created for him based on what had happened to his own family. So there you go. And it turned out that, like, as he said last week, because we had said last week that his ridiculous idea that he just choosing to do this was, of course, just something he's saying. Obviously, it's based on what happened to his own family. And yeah, he was the sole survivor of this exact kind of family murder. He
Yeah,
wasn't.
but and Voight just wanted to see somebody be miserable for the rest of his life, and
Yep.
someone then he could then manipulate.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
At
oh,
first,
and
it
then
sounded
something.
started out as curiosity, and then he started more actively manipulating him when it came time for the plague. Yeah, it's well done. Like, they really thought the brutal man through. I really like that touch that we got a payoff on that from last week. Nothing gets left hanging on this show anymore. All of the stuff, they're thinking through every level of this, and we're getting a full explanation for everything. So this is why I love what they're doing so much. They've put in all of the thought, and they're sharing all of it with us.
Yeah. No, I mean, I loved the episode. I mean,
It's a really good
it's
episode.
just that, no, it's a really good episode, and I don't have time to, no, and I don't even think that I get, like, I'm watching it, and
Yeah.
what I would say is that it was a very stressful show this morning.
Oh,
Like,
absolutely.
this one was really tense and stressful in a way that I'm trying to think the last time I said something like that doesn't have to do with our own personal issues, right? Because this one basically, I mean, had
Well, you
nothing to
have the
do.
twin, like, literally. You want to talk about trying to
Yeah,
tweak us and making us worse? We have two different children being threatened this week, and the
yeah,
brutal realization that one of those two children is, in fact, the killer they took down last week.
yeah.
Because, again, this show is now 100% clear-eyed about how murderers happen. And it's not accidental in this world. Like, killers are made, not born. And we find out that all the stuff that was happening in Gold Star, well, that's stuff that he himself had been toiling with, like manipulating children from their childhood, right?
Yeah,
And just
no, that's
keeping
what
it
I
on the
was going
back
to say.
burner the whole time.
Yeah, this is a complete connection with Gold Star, and Gold Star
Mm-hmm.
had been going on uh a long at the
Quite
same,
a while. Well, again, they wrote the original
I'm trying to,
pitch back
yeah,
in
when
the
Gideon
80s.
back in the 80s. So yeah, and Jill had been doing it.
Mm-hmm. So
Yeah.
yeah, like it's a very good expansion. Like, they haven't abandoned. I know last year was divisive. We loved it. Not every fan felt the same way. We get that, but they're not abandoning it. They're not
No.
abandoning any of these ideas. They're continuing saying, no, like, this is relevant to the world we're building. Whether, specifically the Gold Star program was involved in any of this, it wasn't. The whole
No.
idea that you can make a serial killer is something that has now permeated their entire worldview.
But you see,
Like,
it's also something that Voight knows is true.
oh, because he was made.
And
Yeah.
because he was made, and so now he's trying to do this with other people because he has,
Mm-hmm.
remember, he's always had that question. This is before the coma.
Yeah.
Was I made or was I born?
Yeah.
This way.
And
And
all evidence points to made.
which tells me either his parents were violent psychopathic parents,
Yeah.
or he did not kill his parents.
Yeah. Which
in
is
that
entirely
fire.
possible. And
Yeah.
he just,
So,
yeah,
and
he
but
was
the team seems
monstrously
to be
abused.
accepting that. The team is still far too, I think the only one left now who's really questioning things is David Rossi.
Yeah, I think so.
I think David is like me, doesn't really believe it. Even
Yeah.
Penelope, even Prentice seems to kind
have
of
accepted this. Yeah. State of play. Yeah.
And
I think that's true.
obviously Penelope does, because
It was Penelope's
how could she
idea in the
have been
first
so
place.
careless?
Well, no, but I mean, this whole theory about his character was Penelope's inspiration in the first place. Like, she was the one who thought there might be something more to him, which is why she's been going to see him the whole time he's been in a coma.
Yeah.
Like, don't
Yeah.
forget that. Like, Penelope is the one who kicked all of this off. Like, every cause we have to reassess who he is as a person, that's all Penelope's doing. And so keep that in mind as we watch this. All right. So yeah, I would say overall, like, the case of the week is really good. The scenes with him and the brutal man, I think were fantastic. Like when he has the flashback and when this guy, he is face to face with his idol, and then he finds out that his idol is responsible for every bad thing that has happened to him in his life.
Yep.
Ouch. That's a rough one.
My parents, yeah.
It's like that is a genuine.
But we also have two Sicarius people who have not killed themselves.
Yes, and that's the key part.
Yep.
We have two different Sicarius people who have not killed themselves because they have something bigger going
To say.
on. Yeah. They have a plan now, and we don't know what that plan is.
Yeah.
But it's definitely part of a plan that involves people inside the FBI because, again, the mask shows up in the building.
Yeah.
This is a military base. This isn't just like the FBI building downtown that's hard enough. That would be tough to get into, but, not completely impossible. This building is a training facility, an office building on a military base. You have to get past a military checkpoint to get to work. That's a huge amount. That is gigantic. I'm just saying it's very meaningful. I can't wait to see
I'm not even
how that mask, like,
I'm not even complaining. I mean,
they explain it next week that mask got in there.
Well, Rebecca's ex-boyfriend.
Yeah.
Ex-friend.
The ex-boyfriend, he comes on to deliver some cookies or whatever, papers, and then another. Well, no,
apple
I'm talking
pie.
About the dessert
Lattice
at the end.
Work.
Yeah, apple pie. That's
the lattice work on the apple pie.
Yeah, and then immediately after a dessert gets delivered, something else gets still delivered. I'm just saying it's quite a coincidence. Just putting it out there. So yeah, next week we're going to deal with the mystery of the mask, and I can't wait. But yeah, it's quite a good cliffhanger. No notes on that one. So, do you have any final thoughts about the episode? And no, it doesn't have to be about how I'm wrong. We know your feelings about whether or not I'm right.
No. Actually, I don't have any thoughts about the episode except that somebody did send me an email or send us an email, and I just wanted to say sorry I haven't answered back. And I will. I'm just not in. Still not quite in a place to,
Okay, so you don't want to answer the email right now while we're all here talking about it?
Yeah, no. What I would say is that, I mean, you did see one of the things that was part of JJ finally starting to kind of accept things was, she did have fear in her face. That was one of those things that was part of what we were talking about in terms of JJ, but it was interesting. Yeah, she did relax.
Yeah.
When she hugs, when Voit wants a hug.
Yeah.
Right. She's initially afraid and then, sort of does let go of that fear and sort of accepting.
Moment.
But this would go to mine.
But yeah, that was a very good moment last week. We didn't.
Yeah, and it was part of what we were trying to say with JJ too. That was a good moment. But it also points to me to my point. He is so friggin' manipulative. He knows how to get to people.
That's entirely possible. Again.
Anyway,
I am not disagreeing that yours is possible. I'm just saying it is more dramatically satisfying if this is a murder machine running, like a murder locomotive running without anybody inside the engine. Like this is a runaway train of serial killing. I'm just saying that is a more satisfying possibility. Also, one last thing, just to mention, the weirdest thing about this week is I got to the end of the episode and I was like, did JJ have a line this week? And then I'm like, oh no, she's the one who interviewed the ex-husband in that very tragic scene. Okay. It's just
Yes, it's
after
okay.
having so many episodes in a row of so much JJ and just watching her flex and watching her do such a great job, to have an episode where she's just doing a normal amount for a team member, it suddenly felt like I'm missing a huge amount of
Whoops.
JJ this week.
Well, yes,
it was the right amount.
she is.
No,
I
she
think
is
that
in a
what
better
has
place.
happened,
Absolutely. Yeah.
she is already starting to be in a better place. I wish I could say the same thing for myself.
Yeah.
Although, but I suppose I am, but a little tiny bit, but
At a
not enough to
time,
really
yeah.
notice.
Yeah.
A little bit at a time. So yeah, JJ's, it was just normal. She handled it well. I mean,
Completely. It's a good scene with the ex-husband. Yeah.
That poor ex-husband,
Oh,
as he says. And I'm going, and you got to tell her the truth, because
Yep.
she'll find out someday, somehow.
Oh yeah,
somewhere.
there's gonna be a lot of therapy going forward on that one. 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah,
okay.
really, really solid episode all around. But yes, a lot of it is table setting for what comes next, which I can't wait to find out. So everybody get ready for that as we get joined back here next week. For now, though, if you have any questions, if you have any comments, if there's any profiling related fiction you'd like to recommend to us, in addition to the Year of Dexter that's coming up, drop us a line at profilingcriminalminds@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you. If you're listening on an app, podcatcher, or watching on YouTube, hi, thanks, rate, review, and subscribe. That's how people find out about the show. We're going to see you back here next week for episode 7, which should be, I think, a blast and a half. But until then, I'll say that's right. Au revoir.
Have a good week.